All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where in the world you're calling in from. My name is Nick, and you are on our webinar, Auditoria.ai for Healthcare, Agentic AI for the Office of the CFO. I'm joined here today by our principal solutions consultant, Eric Tatum, who's going to be walking us through the demo. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. Let's just get right on with the program. All right, couple of things to help you get the most out of this event. Number one, you will receive the recording of this webcast right after the event. I'll do my best to post that online this afternoon and get that out to you as soon as possible. There is a button somewhere on your screen, whether it's at the top, at the bottom, somewhere. It's called Q&A. Please ask questions using the Q&A button. If you don't have the Q&A button on your screen, feel free to put stuff in the chat. We'd love to answer your questions and help you understand more about our solutions. And then we will have three interactive polls coming up, one in about 30 seconds, and then we'll have one right before the demo, and then we'll have one right at the end. Let's just keep you on your toes, make sure you're paying attention, and everybody's getting the most out of this event. So cool, that's that. So real quick agenda. We're going to give you a very, very brief overview of the product. You're not here to hear me talk about the product. You're not even here to see Eric. What you're here to see is the actual star of the show, which is Auditoria SmartBots. And you're going to see them do all kinds of really cool things in a live demo. You'll see our AP Help Desk application, our AP Invoices, invoice digitization tool, and our AP Accruals application, which helps you close the books faster. We'll conclude, and then we'll jump into some Q&As to answer any questions that anybody has. So with that, I'm going to pause right here and ask my colleague Brian to throw the first poll up on the screen if possible. All right, so survey question number one. How would you describe your team's productivity on repetitive finance tasks? So this is a non-controversial one. Are you highly efficient? Are there some manual efficiencies that remain in your processes? Are you struggling with repetitive workload? Or you're exploring AI for relief, but unsure where to start, which is okay. All of the answers are valid. Will just help us sort of calibrate, how advanced or, what the needs are of the audience. So we've had the poll open for about 30 seconds. I'll give you another 10 seconds or so to fill it out. We've got more than 50%, actually more than 58% have participated. I'll give you the countdown. Last couple of people, last chance. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Brian, do you want to share the results of the screen? Okay, cool. So it sounds like nobody is highly efficient, which is good. We're all, self-critical. Some manual efficiencies remain. 57% of the attendees said that. Some are 14% are still struggling with a repetitive workload, and then almost a third said, "Hey, look, we're exploring AI, but we don't know where to start." Guess what? You're in the right place. So we would love to share with you some of the things that we have built to help you get the most out of your AI journey. Cool. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing that, and we're gonna move on to Auditoria. So just a few words about us. I'm not gonna belabor the point. We've been around since 2019, having been Workday partners since 2021. Workday is an investor in the company along with KPMG and Dell Technologies and others. Workday also resells some of our products. We're a platinum partner of Workday in the financial management space, and we're also a member of their responsible AI marketplace. So we've got a long history, a multifaceted history with Workday. You can see some of our enterprise customers. Some of them may be familiar to the folks who are on this call: Halifax, Ochsner, St. Luke's, Banner, Sutter, Rush, Memorial Sloan Kettering, and US Urology. We've got a few other healthcare companies down here with Communicare. Zealous is a software application that serves the healthcare. And then down here below, we've got just a smattering of different industry logos. We're very proud of our customers. So you can see some of our investors, some of our partnerships. So let's jump right into Auditoria SmartBots for the controllership. So I'm going to focus primarily today on this side of the screen. So we have three applications that we have created for accounts payable. And I'm going to describe them to you verbally, and then I'm going to show you one slide that kind of takes you all the way around a circle and shows you it in a visual kind of flowchart fashion. And then we're going to jump on another poll, then we're going to go to the demo. So, all right. So, Auditoria was founded under the premise that despite all the advancements in modern technology for accounts payable and accounts receivable, there's still the last mile of automation that has not been solved, and that is the shared accounting mailbox. Every company has one, and it's pretty much always a mess. It's on the AP side, it's suppliers who are asking for payment status. Can I get a status of when this invoice is going to be paid? Do you have this invoice in your system? Why did you short pay this other invoice? Or can you fill out this spreadsheet with all of these invoices and tell me which ones have been paid, which ones haven't been paid, which ones are going to be, which ones are not going to be paid, and what dates are they going to happen? Well, guess what? That sounds like a lot of work for a person, and it is. It's very error prone. It requires somebody to do some research, read through long emails, grab information out of the ERP system, in this case, Workday Financial Management, and package all that up, paste it into an email, hit the reply button, and cross your fingers and hope you did it right. Well, there's a better way to do it, and we have applied agentic AI. We have some very sophisticated AI smart bots that can read emails and understand the intent. Suppliers pretty much ask for money the same way in every company. What's the status of the invoice? When am I getting paid? Can you tell me where this is at in the approvals process? So our bots are very, very good at reading those and understanding the intent. We're also very good at validating the person. Is this really the person who they say they are? And if so, are they even allowed to receive the information they're asking for? If both those are true, we will then reach into the system of record, Workday Financial Management, grab all the requested invoices, whether it's the specific ones they're asking for, or a time-bound example of like all the invoices of the last 30 days or 90 days, whatever it is, and we put those into a template and send those back out. You'll see on the demo today, we'll even attach a CSV for their convenience, and it's awesome. So you're going to see that in action. It's a very easy to understand feature that we have, and I think you'll appreciate it. If an email comes in and that email has an attachment that looks like it could be an invoice, our agentic AI, our smart bots, as we call them, are very, very good at figuring out what's an invoice, what's a statement, what's some other document, what's a remittance. We have all these, we can tell what they are. The bots are very, very good. Then they jump to work digitizing our invoices, and you'll see this today in the demo in a very, very sophisticated and accurate manner. Once they get all the data in front of your team, you would then approve that and write it into the system of record. Those invoices will appear in your approvals queue in Workday, the same as they do today, under whatever status you have deemed them appropriate, whether it's draft, in progress, whatever. Finally, we're going to close on AP accruals. This is also email-based, but instead of emails coming in that trigger the workflow, the bots will wake up at the end of a period, whether it's the end of the month, end of the quarter, end of the year. They will also notice that there are many or some missing invoices. If a supplier has regularly sent an invoice in, but this month they're missing one, the bots are smart enough to reach out to an internal stakeholder like a marketing or professional services person, IT person, or reach out to the supplier themselves and say, hey, you know what? We're missing an invoice. Can you reply to this message and attach it? Or at the very least, tell us how much it's going to be, and we'll create the journal entry and we'll be able to close the books. And then when the actual invoice comes in, auto reversing journal entry, and you have your actuals in the system. So those are our three AP operations, things that we're going to drill down on today. We do have AR, but since this is healthcare, it's not really appropriate. I am aware that there's non-patient AR, non-patient accounts receivable, but we really are going to focus on the AP side today. We do strive to keep humans in the loop. Our AI teammates, which I've used the term smart bots, they're going to work alongside your team, capturing data, taking action, learning on their own when they're allowed to, and handing off to humans when they get stuck, or if they're asked to do something they're not allowed to do. I'll spend a moment talking about our cloud technology and security. Like Workday, we are a cloud data operation. Our address is Amazon Web Services. That's where we live in the cloud. We use machine learning services for natural language processing. We use large language models. A few years ago, I would have had to explain that to people, but since we all are familiar with ChatGPT in our daily lives, we have underlying technology that's very similar to that from OpenAI, Llama, Gemini, and others. We have also a specialized proprietary small language model where we have taught our smart bots to speak the language of finance and accounting. I just use the term accrual. That's an accounting term that non-accountants typically don't use. Remittance is another one. Short pay is another one. So we've taught the smart bots to understand and respond to the language that accounting and finance people use. I'll spend just a second talking about our security, privacy, and governance. We do understand that we are asking you, our customers and prospects, to entrust us with your most sensitive and proprietary financial data. And that's a responsibility we take very seriously here at Auditorio. So to that end, we are what's called SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, having passed our SOC 2 attestation audits 5 years in a row. Happy to share that SOC 2 audit report with you if you have trouble sleeping and you're willing to sign an NDA with us. So, okay, cool. And then, of course, we're the glue that holds together all the systems in your back office, from the email systems, Google Workspace and Microsoft 365, to your Workday financial management system. If you have other dedicated point solutions for accounts payable, we can also, connect directly to those to pull data out of. All right, my last slide, and then we're going to jump into another poll question briefly, and then you get to see the product, which is pretty good because we're about 15 minutes into the presentation. I want to give Eric plenty of time to talk. All right, so I think this example will drive the point home. There's our little smart bot, our Auditoria guy. Let's call him Audie for short. He's going to sit in between your system, your system of record, which is Workday, and your email system, Microsoft or Google. He's going to read, catalog, and respond to all the emails that are coming into that shared inbox console. Why do I call it a console? Well, although this looks like an inbox, it's not. You can tell by this telltale teal toolbar right here. This is the Auditoria SmartFlow platform, and you're going to see Eric mousing around in that, moving from application to application. We replicate your shared mailboxes in our system so that the humans and the smart bots are all working together on the same data. They can see who's responding to each other's emails, which smart bots need help, which things are being teed up for my accounts payable team to respond to. The humans are going to review, reset, and reprocess to train the smart bots. You'll actually see an example in a minute where somebody kind of fat fingers the invoice number and they miss the prefix of INV invoice number. You'll watch Eric, the accounts payable person, correct that error and send it back to the bot. So you'll see human smart bot collaboration in real time today. The smart bots are going to send approved status updates. Those are like payment statuses. They're going to send documentation, and they're going to reply very conversationally using templates that are custom built to reflect your company's brand and your organization's style and tone. And then they're going to extract data as required. You'll see that in the AP invoices demo. So communicating both with your internal employees and your vendors and suppliers. All the SmartBot and human interactions are captured in this CRM dashboard. When you see the demo today, I know this is a very tiny chart. You'll see this column right here where the SmartBots are going to do a wonderful job summarizing very lengthy emails into very concise summaries that humans can read, understand, and the SmartBots can act on. Well, sometimes the SmartBots are confused. Maybe they don't fully understand what's being asked for, or maybe they're being asked to do something they're not allowed to do. Think about somebody sends an email into your shared accounting mailbox, and that email says, please change my bank account number and my routing number, my checking account number, to this offshore account. Well, we would prefer that SmartBots don't handle things like that. So by default, things that are of a sensitive nature, whether they're things like changing address, somebody's not happy with their bill, they're not happy about the fact that they didn't get paid all the money that they wanted to. Sometimes those things do require human intervention. And we will show you today a very sophisticated task routing system where we will prioritize tasks for your team to work on. They can send them back to the SmartBots, they can assign them to other team members, they can close them out themselves. So you get a handle of what's happening within your accounting function. Finally, humans are going to review and approve and train the SmartBots actions. They're going to create approved entries. They're going to map content. They're going to update those records and write back to the system of record, reporting on metrics the entire time. So with that, although this next slide says live demo, I think it's time for another poll question, in which case I'd like to call Brian up. And our second question, thank you to everybody who participated in the first one. Which outcome of AI plus Workday integration would be most valuable for your organization? So we're, of course, asking you to speak on behalf of your whole organization. Are you looking to achieve faster AP cycle times? Are you looking to achieve fewer manual tasks? Are you looking to increase and strengthen your compliance and fraud prevention? Fraud, waste, and abuse, the holy trinity of things that go bad in the healthcare space. Are you looking for improved vendor inquiry handling, or potentially all of the above? Which, not to bury the lead here, but seeing the early responses, sounds like they're spread across the entire gamut. Brian, I think we've probably got a critical mass here with 57% of people participating. Yes, indeed. More than 75% of people have claimed all of the above. Yes, we want fewer manual tasks. Yes, we want to improve vendor inquiry handling, but it seems like these are all very common things. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the poll, or I'll close my window, and I'm going to turn my camera off and stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to Eric to take us through the demo. Take it away, Eric.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. And I'll give you all a look at production software here for the Auditoria Smart Vendor Console. And so here in the in the Auditoria console, think of this as where AP team members come day to day to help manage all of the email activity that goes on with their shared AP mailboxes. So instead of having to jump in and out of Workday, jumping in and out of Outlook or Gmail, in and out of spreadsheets, all of those disparate programs. Here, team members can come into one consolidated console and be able to work through all of these requests, inquiries, incoming invoices much more quickly, including even having the smart bots do reach outs for accruals, generating journal entries, even though sometimes AP team members handle some of that, but also general accounting team members also assist with journal entry approval and creation as well. When users log in, they're given specific roles assigned to their user access. Here you'll see that I'm in as an admin so that I can show you everything quickly and easily in terms of all the features and functionality. But we also have roles dedicated to P2P managers, agents, AP help desk managers, specialists, agents. All of those roles generally allow for team members to see what they need to see inside of the Auditoria console and be able to work on what they need to work on. We have a couple of integration points. We'll connect to Workday. That's where we sync in all of the relevant AP data. That kind of forms the universe of knowledge that the smartbots use to recognize senders and verify, who is reaching out, as Nick mentioned. It's also how they look up information, right? Check on invoices, make sure that we are not receiving duplicate invoices and putting those into Workday. And then they also connect directly to your existing shared AP mailboxes. Now that's nice because it means that we connect to your existing infrastructure. You don't have to retrain your suppliers or even internal senders. If they're used to reaching out to that AP mailbox, they can continue to do so. And it's just that now they're with the use of Auditoria, they're very apt to receive replies back on their requests in a much more efficient manner. When users come in, you're presented with a dashboard of all the activity going on, whether it's related to incoming documents. Think of these as new invoices that are being written to Workday, where we'll go through and track various accuracy metrics, how documents are being handled, which fields are requiring the most edits over time. We'll give you a look at the breakdown of your vendor spend and invoices received by volume, including current invoices that have been received to the mailbox but still haven't made it into Workday yet. We'll give you summaries of the emails in terms of who the emails are from, what the emails are about, how the emails are being categorized. The smartbots are trained out of the box through the use of our proprietary small language model to be able to recognize these types of requests as they come in. A lot of folks ask, well, what happens if a request comes in and it doesn't neatly fit into one of these categories? The good news is the smartbots know what they know and they know what they don't know. If something comes in and it doesn't nicely fit into one of these categories, the smartbots can still verify the sender, give a quick summary of the email, and then escalate that to the appropriate team member based on routing rules that are configurable inside of Auditoria. But here you can see information. All of these drill down dashboards update in real time. They're all exportable, all configurable. Here, we're going to let you know who the emails are from, whether they're known or unknown, internal or external, enrolled or unenrolled. We do have this notion of enrollment in Auditoria, where just because you have a supplier existing inside of Workday doesn't mean that you have to delegate the smartbots to work on their emails. We understand there are some suppliers, some records that you just, whenever they email in, you may want to have that routed directly to a person. We give you a lot of flexibility here. We'll let you know who's emailing in the most, whether it's at an email, a domain, or a vendor level. We'll let you know the outcomes of the SmartBot processing, what types of requests are being categorized. We'll give you details on your Workday data in terms of what records are enrolled or unenrolled, what your vendor contacts look like from a Workday perspective. That is a big way in which we verify senders, right? We can look on the supplier records, look at supplier contacts, match those up against them. We can also use things like relaxed matching domains, where we just look at the company name and the email address after the @ symbol to help with more flexible matching when needed. And then we give you KPI reporting on a bunch of different levels in terms of, what's taking up the team's time, how long tasks are taking to resolve, how old are the existing open tasks. And you can see this at a mailbox level. You can see it at a team level. You can create custom groupings and teams inside of Auditoria, or you can even see it down here at the individual user level. This helps give insight into what team members are working on, how work is being allocated, if somebody's underwater and somebody else has nothing to do. And then we also have these prioritized task lists that can be filtered and sorted and make it so that when different team members come in, they see that the tasks that they need to work on and they handle them from there. And in fact, that's what our most experienced users of Auditoria do. They come in here and they go straight to their task list and they say, okay, what have the smart bots escalated for me to work on today? Now, just to give you a feel for what this could look like as an end state, here we can look at a task in autonomous mode. So here a request came in from a supplier. We see the full email thread. The smart bots have already gone through. They've matched it up to a correct supplier record in Workday. If they can't do this, of course, they'll pause, they'll loop in a person and have them help the smart bot along by making a match. But here, a very straightforward request. We'll look at more complicated ones. Can I get payment status on this invoice? The smart bot in autonomous mode can take in this type of request, generate this reply that is configurable by the finance team. You want to have your business signature in here, pull in any relevant information from Workday about the invoices. And I'll draw your attention to the timing of this. The request came in at 11:54. The smart bot sent the reply back at 11:55. So a 1-minute turnaround time for the smart bot to take in the request, read it, understand it, triage it, look up the information, and send it back. The thought here is every time the smart bots do this, that's one less, repetitive, mundane request that the team has to work through manually. Now, a lot of teams look at this and they say, yep, that looks very cool. Seems like an awfully big step. Seems like there could be some risk in terms of just connecting this to my mailbox and hoping that the smart bots, reply correctly. When you're evaluating AI software, there is a large element of trust that needs to be gained. And so to help with this, we've actually implemented something called collaborative mode, where the smart bots still do all of the front end work for you. They'll still triage, summarize the requests, match it up to a supplier record. But in collaborative mode, the smart bots will pause before sending the draft back out, leave it in draft status, assign it to a person to review, and then a person can come in here, make sure that the reply looks good to them, and then approve the sending of that message. And so in collaborative mode, this is how we allow our teams to build trust. All of our customers start out in collaborative mode, and then over time, they'll say, hey, for these suppliers, for these types of requests, we would like to let the smart bot start replying automatically. And so we give you that ability to granularly increase the automation at a rate that's comfortable without feeling like you're introducing risk. Now, of course, a big component of this is utilizing responsible AI. And so we are badged and certified in responsible AI by Workday. And generally, the biggest reason for this is that we allow you to intervene and override the smart bots at any turn. So here, if I want to make edits or adjustments to this reply, I can do that. Here they were asking about payment status on 3 invoice numbers. The smart bot found 2 of them, that very short invoice number there. The smart bot's not confident enough to pull that. It was able to fuzzy match the second one here where it's just missing the prefix, but I can actually come over here, do a lookup for that invoice number, see that it appears in this list under this supplier record, so there's no risk of pulling an incorrect document. And then as you see there very quickly, I can reprocess the reply and see the updated proposal from the smartbots to resolve this inquiry.
Yeah, I wanted to pop back in there. I came back on camera, Eric, because I think this is a very, very cool part of the application, our agentic AI application, AP Help Desk. Because what you just saw there was um, it got kicked back to a human operator. Actually, the bot got the first one. They figured out through fuzzy matching the second one, and then a human being helped them out with the third one. And then Eric sent that back to processing. So what you saw here is humans and smart bots collaborating in the same place at the same time, which I'm pretty sure no one on this call has seen that before. And so today you've seen something new. Also, I think it's worth pointing out that in my opinion, the nightmare scenario is when the junior accountant who is responding to these forgets and they accidentally copy one supplier's information into another supplier's email. What you saw here when Eric showed you the demo is that's not possible. We are only looking at invoices that are underneath that supplier's invoice records. So it really reduces the risk of sending bad information out there, which could open up your organization to risk and some exposure there. So I'll go back off mute and off camera. Keep going, Eric. You're doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Nick. And so here, when everything's ready to send, I click send, everything updates in Auditoria. There's visibility that this one was taken care of by me. It sends directly through your connected mailbox, so the threads stay intact. There's no proxying. They're not going to have to deal with like a no reply email or anything like that. And then I can mark the task as done. This gets our reporting on KPIs, and then move on to my next action item. And so the smart bots will go through, they'll handle this for various types of requests. We can handle very long drawn out requests like statement reconciliations. The smart bot, even without being trained on these documents ahead of time, no two vendors use the same format of a statement. The smart bots can be trained to look into these documents, identify that it's a statement, different from an invoice, look for like invoice transactions being called out. And here there's something like 80 invoices in this entire document. The smart bot has gone through and performed a statement reconciliation for me here. So it's went through, it's found, 79 of the 80 invoices. It noted one invoice here was not in the system already. It's proactively drafted up a reply where we're asking them to send this invoice in so that we can process it. And then the smart bots go through and they also generate a full statement reconciliation report for the team. So here, this can be sent back to the requester directly, letting them know, yes, we have these invoices. Here's the status on them. If there are payments being applied to the invoices, we can pull in that information as well. Also noting that, hey, we didn't see this one in there. Something that might take, a team member 20, 30 minutes to go through, the smart bots again can do this in 1 to 2 minutes. It's nice that I, as the AP team member, I come in, I review, and then when I'm ready, I send that out. Now for these tasks, all of them get assigned to different users on the team through automatic task distribution rules. Here, we give you a self-service way, of course, that we would help you set up during implementation, but I really make it easy to configure those routing rules, how things get assigned to teams, whether it's based on information with the incoming email, whether it's based on data from Workday, or a combination of both. This helps route things, set the appropriate priority, and it's all available self-service in the console. We also have this help desk mailbox view. This is something that especially teams who are starting out with Auditoria find pretty comforting. It helps indicate to them that, yes, the smart bots are processing every message. They're not skipping over anything. They're verifying the sender. They're doing that initial triage of all of the requests. Here you can get advanced filtering and reporting based on either data in the email or data from Workday. And then you can save those filters for future reference. It's a way to manage the completeness aspect, right? We don't want to have to worry that emails might be coming into the mailbox and being missed. And now a specific type of request that often comes in that generally requires a lot more work is the invoice submission intent. And so for that, our product AP Invoices puts this Documents tab here inside the console. And here we will lay out all of the incoming documents. Again, all of these are tied to tasks that get assigned to specific users. A user can come in here, see, okay, here's a new vendor invoice that was submitted. The SmartBots, every time a document comes in, they will classify it, make sure that it's an actual invoice, that it's not a bank letter or statement or anything else that may be coming in. We even have advanced malware checking in addition to your mailbox to make sure that any kind of, fraudulent or dangerous attachments won't be able to be opened from within Auditoria. We can block those. For invoices that are identified, the SmartBots will go through and check for duplicates. If there are duplicates being found, they'll flag those immediately, prevent those from getting into Workday and then either, needing to be canceled after the fact, which creates more work, or even worse, potentially being paid twice, right? When they certainly don't need to be. But here I can drill down and I can see for this new invoice that's come in that the SmartBots have gotten right to work, extracting all of the information off of the invoice. So here, this is certainly a simpler invoice, but a good one to look at the start here. The SmartBots extract header information associated with the invoice. They extract line level detail. Here, this invoice had a PO number on it. And so this purchase order gets matched to the supplier record, making sure that that PO is in a good status, that it has balance. If any of that is amiss, the SmartBots will go through and note that information for users. We do have features like bank account verification, where if we see bank details on an invoice, we can verify that with what's on the supplier record and flag it if an account number is different or anything like that. For the purchase order validation, we also go through and do the line level matching of invoice lines to PO lines. We use a combination of the description, the rate, and the amounts of the invoice lines. When we match up those invoice lines, we can pull coding from the purchase order directly. We also support extended coding fields, so custom fields, custom work tags, anything like that. All of that information can be brought into Auditoria from Workday. And again, if it's set on the purchase order, it can be pulled over from there. I, as the user, I come in here and generally give this a quick review. Of course, I can always edit and override anything. Any edits are tracked. Those can be used to improve the extractions in the future. All of the values for like your drop-down fields and everything like that, they just come over in the sync. And then once I've reviewed, right, if there's any context with the email submission, I can see that here. If there are extra attachments that I want to have go in with the invoice into Workday, I could drop them here and they would be uploaded as well. But basically, I review, I say, yep, this one looks good to go. I click this Write to System of Record button. I click continue, and then here I see where it says upload started. So right now it's reaching out to Workday, making sure that all of those Workday validation rules, those critical validation rules, are going to be met. Here, everything worked out. It moved from the active data tab to the written to system of record tab. So here, this invoice has now been created inside of Workday, this dash 160-4 invoice. If I refresh inside of Workday, I can see the new invoice right here. And then as I drill down into it, all of the fields, everything that was populated from Auditoria come over. Line level detail, PO matching, all of that occurs. The attachment comes in. And so it creates a consolidated throughput for all of the documents coming through over email. If this invoice gets changed after it's entered in Workday, no big deal. All of those changes sync back into Auditoria so that we become aware of them. In terms of, broad feature support, we can support multiple file types, not just PDF, but images, even scans, right? Stuff where, you may receive an invoice packet where you have like a packing list, right? There's stamps on it. It's not the cleanest looking invoice for sure. Different orientations of pages, pictures of it, pictures of material coming off of a truck here. It's not a problem for Auditoria to take all that in, realize where the invoice data is, and extract that off. We support multiple languages, multiple currencies, generally unlimited support for all of that. We even support, multiple attachments in emails. We support multiple invoices inside of the same attachment. So here, this Epic invoice was actually part of a 7-page packet where each page was a separate invoice. The smartbots can tell the difference between a 7-page packet that's just one big long invoice and a 7-page PDF that contains distinct invoices. We can even make it so that only the appropriate extracted pages write to Workday for each invoice. So we can kind of break up the files so that you don't have to see the entire packet for every invoice that gets written to Workday. Now, over time, what we see is that as the smartbots become more accurate, teams say, hey, I don't want to have to drill down into here and generally just like click right to system of record. Is there any way that we can automate it once we're satisfied, with a vendor's extracted invoices? And so what you can actually do inside of Auditoria is you can control that directly. So in here, there's this autonomous enablement for the vendor. We even have things like summary line extraction. This would be for scenarios when maybe you get a bunch of invoice lines, but you really just want the total to be extracted and written as a line. We can do that on a vendor by vendor basis. For non-PO invoices, we can still even help provide coding and suggest values for extended fields for those as well, based on invoice history from Workday. So like for this Delta Plus supplier, I have invoice history. This one is not a PO-backed invoice. The smartbots are able to go through the historical invoices for this supplier, look at how those invoices were coded, compare the lines, and then make suggestions as to what the values should be. And so this means that we can leverage all of that invoice history already in Workday. It doesn't have had to run through Auditoria previously. And then for even enhanced configurability, we do have checklists where you can determine what's required to write an invoice to Workday, what may not be required. So we're running all these checks on every invoice that comes in, including the things like the duplicate checks. Then we also have templates here where you can configure how fields are handled, and it's all available self-service in the console. Now, during implementation, we would train you on how to use all of this, what all the different settings are available for, but this really just gives you insight into the robust extraction capabilities that we have built into the platform. The goal here is to make it so that it can be configured in a way that invoice extractions require as few adjustments as possible. All of that just lowers your invoice cycle times so that you can get these invoices into Workday faster so that they can be approved and paid on time. And so there's a look at AP invoices. And then finally here, I want to give you a look at AP accruals as well. So AP accruals is designed to, as Nick said, help speed up that month-end close. What we often find is that members of teams have to reach out to vendors or internal parties and say, hey, are we caught up on invoices? Are there any invoices missing, that might require an accrual as we close the books for the month? Auditoria can help generate those journal entries. We create a very similar looking work list, this time for journal entries, where users can come in, review, and approve those journal entries in a very systematic fashion, right? We can have separation of duties for SOX compliance and all of that. But it makes it so that the team has a consolidated view of all the journal entries and automation in terms of reaching out and creating estimates for those journal entries. So here the smart bots can, on a configurable timeline, wake up at month end, send reach out emails for purchase order back data that you want them to. For ones that you don't, they can use formulas either as a backup to a reach out or in place of a reach out. Users, of course, will always have the ability to make manual edits to journal entries where users with the appropriate permissions can leave comments and evidence for why they're doing what they're doing. This helps with audit reporting later on and audit burden. If somebody comes in and wants to pull evidence for certain journal entries, all of that is already kept and maintained within Auditoria. Here's an example for you. I'll drill down and give you a look where the smart bots sent a reach out email and they received a reply. So down here in this email thread view, the initial email, again, a configurable template where inside of this, the smart bots will generate a table saying, hey, we see this purchase order. Here's a description. Here are the recent invoices that have come out against it. Are we caught up? Is anything missing? They could receive a reply that says, yeah, you're all caught up. No accrual required. Or in this case, they receive a reply where somebody said, yeah, this one we need to estimate 10,000, this one 20,000, this one 30K. The smart bots take all of this information and use that to book the journal entry here. So that's where this 10,000, 20,000, and 30,000 came from, resulting in a $60,000 journal entry for this purchase order data. Again, users can always edit and override any of this. For some journal entries, we realize that you may not need to reach out, right? And instead, you may just want to use historical data associated with the purchase order or recent invoices. And so here, the smart bots support a few different formulas. We support a couple of straight line formulas, either over the full period of the purchase order or over the remaining period. We also support a weighted average invoice formula where we take the average of the past 3 months worth of invoices and use that as an estimate. And so again, this can be used in place of a reach out. It can be used as a backup to a reach out if you're not receiving replies. And just like before, right, team members are now in this review mode. They come in, they spot check journal entries when they're ready. They can write them to Workday. Journal entries that get written to Workday move to the Written to System of Record tab for historical purposes. And then the journal entry gets created inside of Workday as well. And so here I can pull this up, show you what this looks like. So here's the journal entry being created. This $15,000 journal entry matches this one. I drill down into it, all of the appropriate coding, work tag usage. We can flag it to create auto reversals, things like that for you. This makes it so that even if you need to reaccrue for lagging invoices the next month, the smart bots will still be able to capture all of that information and accrue appropriately. On this tab, you can also see that this is where audit reports can be generated. We even have the ability to give audit access into Auditoria so that folks can come in a read-only mode, gather evidence, right? Really help lower that audit burden that teams sometimes have to deal with as a part of creating these journal entries. And so that's everything that I had on deck here to show you all today. Certainly appreciate the time. And of course, later on, right, as you have questions, you know that Nick and I will certainly be here to help answer any and all of those as they come over.
Yeah, I was just going to make that point. Feel free to put the questions in the chat or in the Q&A button. If you can find the Q&A button, sometimes it's hidden. Otherwise, feel free to use the chat. You can ask questions like, how much does it cost? How long does it take to implement? Or where do I get started? What's the best thing about Auditoria? All those things are valid questions, and we'll be very, very happy to answer them for you. So let's go back. I got a couple more slides to go over, and then we'll do one more poll question. So, to net it out, we do have a very strong pedigree with healthcare, and because of that, I wanted to give you a couple of examples of our focus and commitment. So payment accuracy, Eric touched on that at great length during the AP invoices demo. So we look at your existing vendors, we match against POs and contracts. We're making sure that a duplicate invoice never gets created. We also have an embedded confidence-driven mechanism that buckets the extraction output into high or low confidence scores. So you saw the color coding on that screen, and as you continue to use the system, those colors, more things will turn green, fewer things will become orange or yellow. So that's the great part about having a machine learning based system. For our second point, fraud, waste, and abuse, I kind of refer to that maybe as the unholy trinity of the bane of the existence of healthcare companies, things that we're always trying to fight against. And you saw today on our demo that AP Help Desk and AP Invoice does help to review the metadata across headers and domains to make sure that this is not the bad guys trying to get the money. Now, you may or may not know this. You probably do live this every day. Healthcare companies tend to be soft targets for hackers. Malware, spyware, ransomware, just like higher education tend to be soft targets. We're here to help you by putting our agentic AI in between the front line and your suppliers. As you probably know also, the weakest link in any security protocol is the human element. And so, our bots cannot be fooled. They cannot be tricked by social engineering. Even if you send a video claiming to be the CFO or the controller, our smart bots don't get confused by that. And we're constantly improving and refining our system to enhance against those fraud, waste, and abuse instances. A little bit about what our customers are doing. So I won't read every word on this slide, but I just want to let you know that our healthcare companies are very broad, and we have, Communicare, for example, nursing homes. Ochsner, large Louisiana-based health system. Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, a very high-profile, organization. U.S. Urology Partners, that's a smaller organization of physicians. Banner Health, you may have heard of. Halifax Health, one of our early healthcare customers, along with St. Luke's. So doing a lot of really cool things with AP Help Desk, AP Accruals, and AP Invoices. So with that, I will, I think, Brian, this is the time we're bringing our third polling question, third and final, and then we will answer some Q&A, and then we'll call it a wrap. So last question is, how prepared is your organization to adopt AI for AP automation? Single choice. Are you fully ready today? Just sign up and we're ready to go. Are you currently piloting or testing, maybe dipping a toe in the water? Are you planning to implement within 6 months? Okay, so it looks like some people are planning to implement, and then no immediate plans. So we've got about a third of the audience that has participated. If you don't want to answer, that's fine, but we'd love to know what your plans are. I promise I won't call you, but we do want to know like where on that curve are you to today? Okay, cool. I'll give you a countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go ahead and end that poll. So we're split about evenly. No immediate plans, which is not surprising. 50% of the people have no immediate plans because in poll question number one, the number one answer was, I don't even know where to begin. So it makes sense if you don't know where to begin that you don't have any immediate plans. If you did have immediate plans but don't know where to begin, that would be bad. So we're here to help you. And that's one of the questions that has come in our chat. We'll get there in a second. And then, about 25% are currently piloting or testing or planning to implement within 6 months. So thanks for sharing that, Brian. And we will now turn the floor open to Q&A. So Eric, I'll take the first question. The first question is, how do I get started on this AI journey? A couple of people have asked it a couple different ways, but I'm paraphrasing it. You saw sort of a high-level demo today. We would love to show you a tailored demo of what the effects would be, what the outcomes would be in your environment. And we'd ask you some questions about how many suppliers do you have, how many invoices do you have, and we'd help you build a business case. We also have something called an interactive AI workshop, which is really super cool. And Eric can talk more about it, but we will do a demo with your actual data. So we would sign a non-disclosure with you. We've done this for dozens of companies in the past few years. Once we sign that NDA, that we'd ask you to send us a couple of invoices, some example invoices that are typical of your suppliers, and we would set up your systems in our own Auditoria system as well as in our Workday sandbox, and we would get on a demo together. Eric will provision your team with logins, and you can actually see the smartbots handling your invoices and your data and responding to supplier inquiries right there on that interactive workshop. They're not real supplier inquiries. We'd all be playing the role of vendors, but you can actually see for yourself. I call it, it's kind of a test drive. Nobody buys a car without taking it around the block and checking out the turning radius, the 0 to 60, and the fine leather seats. So we'd love to show you a test drive on our system. So cool. Another question, I guess I'll kick this one over to Eric. Eric, what is the implementation timeline? We just got through implementing Workday, and that took over a year to implement. Is it a similar lift with this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I much lighter lift with Auditoria. Typically, it would be about 15 weeks to implement here, depending on which products you select, what and kind of how large your teams are. The majority of our implementation is geared toward user acceptance testing and training. The good news there is that means that it's not a huge IT project, right? We have pre-built certified API connectors for the mailbox, for Workday, means that your team's not going to have to spend a long time making those initial connections to Workday, and that we can much more quickly get the team in there, right? Let them train, ask questions, become familiar with the software, and all of this just increases your time to value.
Cool. Thanks for that, Eric. I got another one for you. And I won't say the company's name, but we are presently using fill in the blank here for invoice digitization. And we've been using them across the organization for several years. How is Auditoria's AP invoices superior to the existing product that we have from fill in the blank here?
Yeah, that's a good question. And what we typically see is, a lot of these models use what's called like legacy OCR functionality in order to extract this data. And that means that, you might have a US zip code and the software thinks that like it's an L instead of the number 1, and it doesn't have like a lot of common sense around extractions. And that's where our AI extraction software differs, right? Our software is going to say this is a US zip code. It should not have letters in it, that kind of thing. And can make all of those kind of small nuanced judgments on the fly, in addition to the software being trainable, right? So we can tune it, train it for your specific use cases. This is what allows us to, expand support very, very rapidly. A year or 2 years ago, our currency and language support was not nearly as robust as it is now. But we had folks come on, they said, yeah, we need these non-Latin character based extractions. We need right to left language writing extracted. We need translations into English before it goes into Workday. And we were able to implement all of those through the training of the model instead of having to foundationally rebuild all of the software.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Okay, another question. I think this might be our last question. Pricing and how do you acquire the software? So we don't have any kind of concept of seat licenses. So we would love it if you put your entire AP team, whether it's 5 people, 10 people, 100 people, sign them all up. Our pricing is based on volume, so it's volume based. If you have a lot of suppliers, we will put together a package for you based on the number of active suppliers you have. What is an active supplier? It's a loose definition, but I would say anybody who you've invoiced more than once in the last 12 months. So maybe you got 2, 3 invoices from somebody, not the guy who invoiced you 5 years ago and never invoiced you again. So you have active suppliers. You can actually just run a report right in Workday that tells you, tell me how many vendors have sent me an invoice in the last 6 months, or how many have sent me more than one in the last 12 months. That's AP Help Desk, and AP accruals are the unit of measure is active suppliers. For AP invoices, it's the average number of documents that are incoming every month, whether it's invoices, statements, whatever. And we would put together a subscription based on your needs. So it's really usage based. So smaller companies, smaller subscription; larger companies, more value, larger ROI. The subscription costs more. You can today purchase 2 of these products directly from your Workday representative. And I want to give a shout out to our good friends at Workday. They've been awesome partners over the years. AP Help Desk and AP Accruals are put together through one offering by Workday. It's called Auditoria.ai Smart Bots for Workday. And you can buy that today on your Workday contract. You just add it, call your rep and say, I want Auditoria, and they will activate that on your subscription. It's super, super easy. If you wanted AP invoices, you'd have to come to us. But two of those three products that we just demonstrated today are available from your Workday rep. Cool. I think we're about at time. We've got maybe 3 more minutes, but we'll let everybody have a little bit of time back. Grab a cup of coffee and get to your next meeting. So, on behalf of Brian, Eric, myself, the whole Auditoria team, and all the smart bots backing us up, thanks for spending the time with us today. And please enjoy the rest of your day.